Tuesday, March 7th to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people. Adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by trustee Schmidt, seconded by trustee McDonald. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to minutes of February 14th, 2017. Moved by trustee Schmidt, seconded by trustee Thorne. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to old business, the action list. Oh, I'm sorry, I went right beyond our secretary treasurer here. Report of closed board meeting.
Thank you. At the closed board meeting preceding this meeting, the board discussed property issues and the budget survey.
Thank you. Now moving to the action list. Page 10. So I can start with the strategic priorities plan communication. And we have not discussed that since we passed our communication plan. So I'd like to suggest that we bring it back to next meeting and walk it through, just so we remember. Some of the items on it were trustees were going to pass the strategic priorities plan to their PACs. So it's only one of the items, but it will come back. Anything else on the action list? Secretary Treasurer?
Thank you. On the transportation review, we have sent out a quick survey to a few of our neighboring school districts, asking for some feedback on a couple of questions that we have to add to that. Sorry that we haven't begun work on the district foundation, but hope to do that shortly.
Thank you. The reason why I was saying that so hesitantly is because of all the other work that is currently being done. However, if you feel that you have time, that would be great. Okay, anything else on the action list? Moving to Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to introduce a member of our audience today, Amelia Peterson. Amelia is joining us from Harvard. She is older than she appears. She is.
I don't know if that was an insult or a compliment.
Sorry, Amelia. Amelia is a grad student at Harvard Graduate School of Education, working with Professor Joel Maida. And beginning, this was her first official visit in this capacity. She was here last year. But to begin research on doing some writing with John Maida on a publication around organizations, school districts, and change and transformation. And will be one of 4 districts that will be highlighted. Is that fair, Amelia?
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to?
Just to thank everyone for letting me be here, and yeah, hopefully it'll be in a couple of years that we're moving towards writing a book, so there'll probably be some small things that come out in between, there'll be a lot of communication with our and goes public, but all the teachers and principals here have been very welcoming, so it's been a great visit.
So Amelia's been here the last 2 days. And we'll come back in May and continue. So this was sort of a bit of a scouting trip for her we could introduce her to a number of teachers and classrooms and schools and sort of giving her the lay of the land. And then, as Amelia said, sort of beginning a bit of a long-term relationship and studying some of these innovations moving forward. What, for example, what might land-based look like today? How did that get started, and what's the progress of that over the next few years, or any classroom, whatever. So this was sort of a bit of a scouting trip. So great to have you on board, Amelia, and hopefully as she comes through on her visits, she can come and spend a little bit more time with us. And she's a very intuitive, insightful person, so it's always good to see yourself reflected through the eyes of others as well. And just hearing the questions Amelia is asking her teachers and staff and kids, it's good question. So thanks, Amelia. And I know you're bolting off to catch a flight, but
And stay for a little bit. Apparently the roads opened again.
okay.
So we
I'll
quite
have
as
a-
much time to get to the train.
Malhab was closed.
Can I just say, thank you for your interest in being with us in the school district. And certainly the Board of Education is happy to work with you at any time if we can be helpful.
It's great, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Maybe people have questions.
And more questions? Any questions?
Other three districts are you doing, are they Canadian or American?
They're
Or,
American, yeah. So.
and is this a compare and contrast, or is this?
No, it's really, they're all in kind of different ways, different stages, and they're kind of approaching change in different ways. So it's really more just trying to understand kind of how it's experienced by teachers, how one even goes about. It's kind of about curriculum, when new curricula comes in each place there's been some kind of new curricula coming in, and teachers being asked to do things differently, and then being asked that in different ways. So we're sort of trying to understand how one initiates processes of change, how that's experienced by teachers, and how you kind of build up and maintain momentum. So we're kind of looking at change on a number of different levels, which is why it's wonderful to be able to actually get in and speak with people and sit down with people and then kind of continue those conversations over a couple of years, hopefully, because the stuff takes a long time. So the main aspect of this study that's different from some studies that have been done before is really that longitudinal aspect, being able to kind of follow a change over time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Croft? Why did you pick Cambridge?
I guess the short answer is broad, if that's too simple an answer. My advisor, so John Leonard, is a professor who studied kind of deeper learning in US high schools for a long time. I had a chance to hear on when he was over in Harvard, and was just like, what is this? And
That's what we
then-
say to
What?
us.
All the time, but it's going on.
And then I was like, this is BC. I've been telling you about this for about 3 years because I've been to other districts in BC over a period, and we kind of wanted somewhere where it wasn't. So I spent a bit of time before in places like West Van or some of the kind of Metro Vancouver areas, and because some of the other districts were in the US, there's a little bit of range. So we've got kind of 2 big urban ones, and then we've got one more kind of rural suburban one. So we really wanted somewhere else that was more kind of rural as well. And so it sort of fit in that sense, and just somewhere else that's not too big, so that you can kind of get a real sense of everything, but also not too small. There's enough different schools here that it's a real system. So those
We have our own system.
fit the bill.
We passed the first test.
That's great. Any further questions or comments? Okay, back to you, Mr. Hill.
That's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Trustee Dorn.
Admitted, you picked this place because we're just that cool.
Yeah, I mean, also, I've been here probably before. I was looking for an excuse to come back.
Oh, I'm glad you found it.
Thanks, Amelia, I think.
Deal with him later.
I have nothing on personnel, other than just to say we, as a result of Bill 28, we are continuing interviewing at TTOCs, especially adding to our TTOC list, getting that as robust as we can, anticipating the hiring that will begin. For board information, Bill 28, as you know, we got a resolution on Saturday. We are in process of going through all that. That's great news. It's great to have it ahead of budget season. Be careful what you wish for, because we got it just ahead of budget season. So that will present challenges to us and districts across the province as we try to integrate this new information into budget planning and budget processes and so on. So we're beginning that process locally. Friday we have a first sort of official meeting with CVTU on some of those definitional pieces that we can work on locally and so on. So we will begin that work. And again, what we know is in September we will have schools full of kids and full of teachers, and we'll have more teachers in those schools supporting those kids. That's all good. We will make it to September. That's the trick. It's getting there, and it's excellent. So good news for all. Some things that have happened around the district since we last met. The 100 Women Who Care Cowichan chapter donated $21,300 to, because the 100 women is actually 213 women who care,
And growing.
to the Alexander for their school kitchen. So that's just spectacular. It's just awesome. Tanzer Elementary received a kitchen grant from Island Savings for $1,200 and you can see some of the Tanzer pictures there to add some appliances and so on to the remodeling of the Tanzer kitchen. Seavolk has a bat house project. Prefabricating projects for earlier students to paint and to assemble. So the Seavolk kids started making kits for bat houses, designed by the grade 10, the 10 to 12 alternate kids, and then assembled with this was with a kindergarten class at Cool. Pretty cool.
Are they for sale?
Students?
No.
Yeah.
Well, the one in the middle is pretty cute. The bathhouses.
That's a good question. Don't know. We can find out. Trustee Croft would be back.
Not in the bathhouse, I like to buy a bathhouse.
Important distinction. And just, we talked last year about the Francis Kelsey task program, for Trades and Apprenticeship Foundation Skills and Knowledge. Going full swing this term. It's in conjunction with Camosun College and the South Island Partnership. It's a dual credit program. 18 grade 11 and 12 students get to experience a variety of trades, including carpentry, drywall, electrical, sheet metal, welding, plumbing, machining, general maintenance, installation, inspection, demolition, testing, and troubleshooting. So all kinds of good stuff. It's taught on site at Kelsey 2 full days per week, plus 11 days where the students go down to Camosun Interurban campus and get into those unbelievable facilities down there at Camosun. So it's dual credit. It's introduction to ACIP programs. They get certification in WHMIS, fall protection and confined space entry, all of which are great things to have when they're out looking for summer jobs or for work in general. So that's pretty cool. Today, because Amelia's visit was not enough for us, we had Shaw TV here today, and they'll be here tomorrow as well, shooting their story that was delayed because of snow earlier this spring, focusing on new curriculum and the kinds of programs it enables, looking at the land-based program, looking at
Really nice to meet you all. Thank you again.
Safe travels.
looking at the community classroom, looking at, I think they were out today at Alex Aiken and Maple Bay. So shooting footage of kids and teachers and being able to sort of explain the how we're thinking about transformation in those cases. To let the board know that while Jason is laboring on budget over spring break, going away, I've been invited to.
I don't think he knew that.
That was a surprise. I've been invited by the World Bank to go to Jakarta the second week of spring break to meet with the World Bank education folks and their Asian countries to have conversations about British Columbia and Cowichan and the kinds of things that we're doing here to share the sort of the BC story. And have also been invited last week to go back to the OECD and spend a little bit more time with them talking about British Columbia and our curriculum model and transformation and how that's going in our province. Someone has to go to Lisbon to do that. Jeez. But wanted to highlight, I mean, one of the, again, the cool kinds of things that come from that, not only just the learning for us and the ability to share, but also the connections like the Amelias of the world, of the folks you get to meet that can come back and add value to what we're doing here, and help to tell our story, both to the world, but also to ourselves. I think a lot of what Amelia is doing is reflecting ourselves back, like the Louisiana folks expect, reflecting ourselves back to ourselves, because that's, we often don't take the time to do that, and for our teachers to go, hey, what I am doing is pretty cool. This is good stuff. This is, and so I think there's huge value in that. That is my report. I've got all the fun stuff. Happy to answer if there's any questions about.
Trustee Croft.
I think that we were joking a little bit about it, but it would be interesting for the board chair or someone to go on a trip should the 2 tickets ever come available instead of 1. Well, I'm sorry, I just
Or someone, right?
Pushing, right? But it really makes a lot of sense because the information exchange at the level that Rod's talking about, and from the board's perspective, that's a pretty important piece of the puzzle. So I think it would be lovely to see somebody go. You could pick me, that would be good, but I know. Somebody should go. Somebody should
She wants a
go.
bat box and a trip.
Yeah, and I don't want to, throw a wrench into Rod. I mean, you're making all those arrangements, all those contacts and stuff, but it might be something to keep our ears open for an opportunity.
Thank you.
To build on what Trustee Croft said, one of the things places are getting increasingly other jurisdictions interested about is not just the political, but the governance questions about, because a lot of things have to be in place, and it's not just a bunch of educators. They have to be held in a system that enables change and transformation and those kinds of things. I mean, John Abbott, remember when John Abbott was here last year or the year before, he's writing a lot about he believes one of the strengths of British Columbia is actually the district model we have. Having 60 districts is about the right number. Having locally elected boards where other jurisdictions might be shifting their thinking about that. He says that that's a huge strength of British Columbia. That sort of locally developed governance model is a strength. So I know you're sort of saying it a bit jokingly, but a lot of people do want to hear about, so what's the governance implications? What's the system like from top to bottom? I'll ask for another ticket.
She wasn't joking.
She wants to go.
Thank you, but I mean, there is value in that, setting values and beliefs and all of that around encouraging change, which for us, we have to be a part of that if that's what we want to have happen for our students. Okay, moving to Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. One of the board's financial accountability procedures is to bring regular financial information to let you know how you are doing. And we have prepared a projection. It was prepared with information that was available at February 28th, 2017. And I'll quickly walk through it. If we could just scroll it just slightly more, Gina, that's good there. The first column represents the budget that was adopted in February, and at that time, there was a surplus of $994,396 built into that budget. So that remained from the prior year, and a little bit that was generated from this year from the increased enrollment. So that was the base for which this projection is prepared. The next column is year to date, and the column after that is how we project those balances at the end of the year. So the projected surplus, if we look down at the very, very bottom there of the projected surplus line, you see a number of $668,782. That's what we would be projecting today as the surplus generated on that budget that already has a surplus of $994,000 in it. So combine those two numbers is what we believe where the district is heading towards the end of this year, and that's the $1,663,178 figure that you see there. So not a lot of change. You see a few areas are coming in a little bit over budget, one being the principal, vice principal salaries, and that relates to an injury replacement that's being charged there. The other area is on the USW, and that could shift. Right now it's winter, more work is happening indoors, and we have a certain number of our employees that work on capital. And as the weather improves, they may start to do more outdoor work, get more capital of nature, and come off of those payrolls. But when we look at the way we project on our payrolls, we look at what we have charged to date. We look at the last payroll run, how much that is, and we start to extrapolate that out to the end of the year. So, for example, with the teachers, as of February, we look at the last February payroll, and we go, that's going to be March 15th, that's going to be March 30th, that's going to be April, and we would adjust that for any known wage increases, such as increments. So we track the amount that teachers go up each month, some teachers will go up. Certain teachers will go up each month based on their experience. So their 1 year experience anniversary date might happen in a month, not at September 1st, but it might be February that somebody actually moves from a 5.9 to a 5.10, for example. So we track all of that, and we look at the wage increases that have been announced and negotiated as well. When it comes to our education assistants, clerical, and USW, their payrolls don't land perfectly at the end of each month. They're paid every 2 weeks. So at the end of the year, we need to make sure we pick up the times when there are 3 pay periods in a month, and which is twice a year, and we need to make sure we pick up the amount we call the stub period at the end. It isn't actually paid until after July, but there might be 4 days in there or 9 days in there, depending on the way the calendar works. So the salaries are coming in total with about a $477,000 surplus. A big piece of that is on our casual replacements, where we're seeing a $251,000 surplus right now, and that work on the casuals was actually done as of February 15th because we didn't have the payroll run for February 28th at that time. So that could shift a little bit, but we're at the point that we start to see our illness get quite predictable through March, April, May, June. Doesn't change a lot. Most of the flu season is over. It slows down quite a bit. On in-service extracurricular department head, I want to draw your attention to the budget being $725,804. Spent to date, $227,000. Is likely going to be some surplus there, but we don't know until we see what is planned for the rest of the year. But you can see that that's we are 60% through the school year, and that's certainly not 60% of that budget. So we'll watch that, and if we think we can start to predict some surplus there, we'll include that. Under services, we're a bit over on some dual credit tuition. We should see some of that come back in the revenue area. Certainly doing well up above on our international program. The miscellaneous revenue that is also showing there is partly registration fees and some other fees that come in through the international student program. So that's where the bulk of that revenue surplus is coming from. On utilities, I was showing in my earlier projections that would actually be under budget. Now we're thinking it's going to be on budget and possibly higher. We don't have all the data for February yet. And March is continuing to snow and not be the traditional weather pattern. So we'll continue to update that, but that's just sort of a quick look at where we think we're going to be for the end of end of this year based on what we know today. Of course, the closer we get to the end of the year, the more accurate that becomes. But still within, good starting point for next year's budget funds.
Trustee Hutchins?
We have a budget or line item for replacement for EAs and teachers.
Mhm.
We don't have one for principals and vice principals. You indicated that's up because somebody was on sick leave.
Yeah, the replacement budget are the teachers and EAs and casuals that come in for the individual being compensated to replace the individual who's off sick. That's coming through the principal, vice principal budget. There isn't a teacher replacing that person, so we don't typically budget for replacement costs for our principals because they're usually not replaced unless they have a teaching component, and then that falls under the teacher's piece.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you. It's looking very healthy for us going into the next budget where we don't really know how the funding is going to end up, so good.
The next item I've called the BC Classroom Fund. I don't know if there's actually a name for it. There was a press release. I just wanted to bring it to your attention if you hadn't heard. There was $29.4 million announced for school districts. That was to assist schools with purchasing supplies and resources that would reduce costs for parents and help teachers deliver the BC curriculum. The portion of that that's coming through the BC school districts is $27.4 million, and there hasn't been an announcement yet on how much each district is going to receive. However, we are approximately 1.4% of the provincial population. Knowing that, we're estimating that figure to be around $380,000. So we're waiting to have that receive that money, but it's good to know that it's coming, and there'll be some decisions to be made around how to spend that.
Thank you. Perhaps it would be possible to talk about the money with DPAP when we have our liaison meeting. Perhaps they have some interest in suggesting what would be helpful. I think this money is to be helpful to parents as well as schools.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's what the press release says, and it's to cover. And if you read through it, talks about everything: textbooks, hands-on learning tools, computer programs, athletic equipment, art supplies. Lots of flexibility for the board to make some decisions around that based on the local needs of parents, students, and teachers.
Right.
So engaging with DPAC would seem to be appropriate.
Okay, and no timeline on that so far?
No, still just operating on this press release. I think they said that it would be coming in the weeks in the next. I think they use a few weeks here somewhere, but we haven't heard yet.
It says how the funds were used prior to the start of the next
Sure.
school year.
So there will be a report out prior to next year.
It also
I believe the year September.
said school districts would be notified by the end of February with their amount, and they haven't seen that yet.
They've been busy too, I guess.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
Going around. Correct.
Anything further on this topic? Okay, moving to committees and outside organizations. A, Trustee Hutchins.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move that the Board of Education receives the minutes of the January 24th, 2017 Board of Education and Business Committee meeting.
Moved by Trustee Hutchins, seconded by Trustee Thorne. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to DSAC meeting, Trustees Thorne and Schmidt.
The Board of Education received the highlights of the February 9th, 2017 DSAC meetings.
Moved by Trustee Schmidt, seconded by Trustee Thorne. All those in favor? Motion carries. Item C, Trustee Schmidt.
The Board of Education received the minutes of the February 16th, 2017 DPAC meetings.
Moved by Trustee Schmidt, seconded by Trustee Thorne. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item D, Trustee Croft.
I'd like to move that the Board of Education receives a summary of the February 21st, 2017 Advisory Committee meeting.
Thank you. Moved by Trustee Croft, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item E, BCFTA Provincial Council report. Trustee DeGroot.
You've got two kind of documents. One, I kind of stole some of their pictures, but we talked about the election before. We kind of, we really don't want it to be seen as being, That's number 24, sorry, page 24. So what we found is that the BCSTA has come up with a public education is the key, which is basically more of a branding kind of thing. What does education mean to you? So that was the key one. Key two is engage key sector leaders in your community. And the Friday night session, they did just that. And they had 6 presentations, and I've given you summaries of them. The first 3 were coastal health and technology expert from DigiBC and the new rep for children and youth. And it was really interesting because they were only allowed 20 seconds with their slides. And they seriously went ping, and they had to move on. Yes, you have
Per slide.
per slide. No, their whole thing had 20 seconds. I could manage that. I could speak really quickly, but no, they 20 seconds per slide. And it was actually really moved along quickly and well, because the people were really well organized, and only 1 or 2 kind of argued that that wasn't my first slide, that was my, anyway, they were only allowed so many slides as well. And then the next group of 3 were the seniors advocate, education support from BCIT, and 2 students from Richmond School District. And again, it was really well done. I felt that that was probably, for me, the best part of the entire meeting, because the next day was not as interesting. The key action 3, I think I sent this all out to you, is making sure that we're registered to vote and asking if you know people that might not be, just making sure that they do. And then it asks you to watch the videos, and that's on the attached document, and those videos were taken of the people who presented that night. The next is the synopsis of the actual meeting, and there's the different reports which you can read for yourself. I'm not going to read them to you, or not, but perhaps Candice would like to speak about the Aboriginal education one.
Sure. The Aboriginal Committee met for 2 days prior to the Provincial Council. First was having Caleb Child, who's the District Principal of Aboriginal Education, and Dr. Scott Benwell, who's the Superintendent in School District 85. And they have been seconded to the Ministry for 2 years to develop what they're calling an Equity in Action program. There are 6 pilot districts. Our closest is Nanaimo, that's been selected to be part of their field studies, and the report on the Equity in Action will be in July 2018. The second thing that the committee did was meet with FNF, and their biggest request to the Aboriginal Education Committee was to support their request to the Ministry for a First Peoples course as part of the grad program, that would be a required course. And so the committee made AGM motions on both of those to continue support for the Equity in Action project and to support the required First Peoples course as part of the grad program. After that, we spent a lot of time talking about the National Gathering in Whistler in July, and how we'll have a booth there. And one of the pieces of that will be a self-looping computer program showing the work of the committee and of school districts to increase Aboriginal student achievement and success. So we'll be asking all of the districts across my part says a list of districts for pieces of photos or videos or whatever that we can use on that loop, and lots of other things about that booth will be there. And we spent time going over the agendas of the National Gathering and the Congress. Lots of great speakers will be really good. The barbecue I wanted to mention is open to family members, and it looks like it's expensive. It's $99 for the barbecue, but it includes a full day lift at Blackcomb and Whistler, which is normally $60. So really, it's a $40 cost. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. moving along is the financial committee report, and I did send out a lot of these motions to you and got very little information back, so that was my own feelings. But I figured that you wouldn't mind. The first one was that the BCSTA was raising the members' fees, 1.4%, I believe is the amount per year. They haven't raised them for, I think they said 10 years. So they were having to cut staff and everything. So for our district, it works out to $470. So I thought, yeah, we could do that. And the budget that was produced, they produced two budgets, one that, a draft budgets, one that was with the increase and one that was without. So obviously the one with the increase was passed. I also sent you the other motions, and the four of them, and they all passed with many amendments. As any of you who've been at AGMs know that nothing goes through without amending the amendment several times, but they did all pass. So basically that was everything at the meeting. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them. I will continue to send you, if you aren't getting the keys to education. But I think, is everybody getting them without me? Okay, good. Thank you. If you have any information that you would like me to send back, let me know. Thanks.
Any questions or comments? Okay, moving to Vista, spring conference report, which was last weekend. And I wrote out a synopsis there. First was Don Levison, who's an advisor to the Deputy Minister, and he is preparing the strategic plan for Aboriginal student success, which has not been completed yet, but he gave us a preview of some of the recommendations that he's going to have in the plan. The first was the need for focus on K-4 reading and parent communication to build a strong foundation for student success. The importance of pre-service training for teachers, a commitment to cultural competency for staff, a comprehensive curriculum reform must incorporate Aboriginal perspective as a key element in changes, the important role of the K-12 table, and the changes to the How Are We Doing document to make it readable, useful, and used by districts. He will be tabling his report to the Minister and Deputy Minister in the coming weeks. Then on the Saturday morning, Port Alberni School District made their presentation, and I outlined some of the important pieces they talked about. All of their context was around having outside agencies working inside agencies, so working inside the school district. And they outlined a number of the programs that they're doing, and the sort of summary is it's all about partnerships. There were a few things that those of us there kind of highlighted in our minds. One was the early childhood education piece. Another was the middle years development instrument that is comparable with the EDI, and then there's the middle years. And they were using both of those instruments really well. And so our thinking of people that were at our table was we need to revisit in our district as that being part of our data that we need to make decisions around. And this vital signs report really attracted our attention. And it is a quick summary of what is happening in terms of their data. This is what they are using primarily around their data set for decision making. So I'll just pass that around so people can see it. Anything else on Vista, trustees who were there?
I'm just, I was so impressed with Don Davison. I've never heard him speak before, but excellent presentation all around.
And he will be presenting at the AGM as well as the Vista conference. Trustee Croft or Trustee Thorne? Trustee Thorne?
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Pardon me, Joe. In regards to the document, I was going through it a little more lately, and a lot of that are stats that they've generated, but a lot of it is data that they pulled from a lot of different sources. And it's such a spectacular community context and weaves in, you know, environmental aspects in the world that we live in with real life. So it's really a lovely document.
So, Trustee Hutchins, do you want to talk about our local energy around producing something like that?
Yeah, our Council Development Network has partnered with Social Planning Council on development of something similar to that.
Trustee Doyle?
Going to this Vista was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in my time sitting at this chair. For the first time I was, as you notice, I could not sit still. I was up and on that floor. And it was about time that I heard a lot of truth, a lot of major concerns that I see every day. And I have nothing but praise for Don. We did talk after the meeting and he mentioned he was really happy to see somebody finally get up and say what was, ask the questions and speak out. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that night.
Good. The final piece that I have for you is in the business meeting, we got engaged in early childhood development, and Victoria had thought about doing a aging in motion, and then it pulled back, and so Vista took it on, and between Victoria, Parksville Qualican, so and we wrote this late motion, so we're hoping it comes forward, and it's a motion to request that early childhood development and appropriate full funding come under the Ministry of Education, which would mean the boards of education. Okay, anything else on the Vista project? Okay, moving back to Trustee Hutchins for the Board Education Business Committee meeting. And the hardship policy.
Financial hardship policy. Yes, thank you. So the Board of Education adopts policy, I don't know, the Board of Education adopts policy 5020 hardship policy.
Thank you. Moved by Trustee Hutchins, seconded by Trustee Schmidt. Any conversation? All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Moving to upcoming meetings and events. Trustee Schmidt.
I just want clarification, I noticed that DSAC wasn't listed and it was supposed to be tomorrow, I noticed we haven't received email on it either. Is DSAC still going tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm moving to meetings and events, page 32. I noticed the graduation and district year-end event schedules also part of, I guess, the schedule. So if it's okay with everyone if the liaison trustees take responsibility for their schools again and year-end activities, that be okay with everyone? Okay. Mr.
And Madam Chair, just for the information of trustees, like last year, this is not a definitive list of the year-end events, but it's, as we know things, they're coming onto this list because we know it's different, challenging scheduling, so that as soon as we're knowing things, we're plugging them in. So this list will continue to be added to.
Thank you. And just so you take a note at the bottom there with the district retirement event and the year-end barbecue, the dates have now been set. Yes, Trustee Drew?
Do we have, it doesn't have any dates on here, do we know what dates the district scholarship judging will be at this time?
Mr. Ellis?
Typically the last week of May.
Typically the last week of May, I heard.
Typically the last week of
May.
Little birdie may whisper that one out.
Okay.
I can confirm, sure.
Thank you. Anything further on schedules? Okay, moving through correspondence and new business to question period. Do our friends in the audience have any questions? Perfect.
When will it stop snowing?
Trustee DeGroot, Trustee Doman, all those in favor? Motion carries.